Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial video. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cool neon sign in Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to start by creating a new Illustrator document. So we're going to File, New, and we're going to create a document that is 1044 wide by 1600 high. So if we create that, and before we start anything, what we're going to do is change the colour setup. So we're going to go to File, Document Colour Mode, and we're going to change that to RGB. So the first thing we're going to do is create the text for our sign. So I'll hit T to bring up the type tool. Now the size of the type is going to be 240, and the font is going to be Comforter regular, and that's just a Google font which you can download for free, and I'll put the link in the description for that. So our text is going to say open, because that's what our sign is going to display. So with our type selected, I'm going to hit Ctrl Shift O, and what that does is create outlines from the text that we've just created. And we're going to go Shift X to change that from a fill to an outline stroke. Now at the minute that's one big group, and we want these to be individual letters. So we're going to right click on that, ungroup that, and again right click that to release the compound path. So what that's done is isolate all these individual loops in the letters. And the reason we've done that is that we're going to use these outlines to find a centre line for each of these letters, which is what we're going to use to create the lettering for our neon sign. So to start with, what we're going to do is hit C to bring up the scissors tool, and we're going to separate each section of this letter here. So what I like to do is start at the bottom, selecting all these endpoints and slowly going around the letter until we've done each one. Here we go. So as you can see, they're all individual bits now. And what we're going to do to get this center line for our letter is use the blend tool. But before we do that, we're going to go to Object, Blend, and Blend Options. Now when you open this up, it's likely going to be set to smooth colour, but we're going to change this to specified steps and put 1 in that little box there. So once we've done that, we can select these two vertical bits here, hit Ctrl Alt V, and what that does is, because we've only put 1 step in, it's done 1 step in between these 2 points here and given us that centre line there. So if we do the same for these two and these two, that's given us that centre line for each of these portions here. Now at the minute we can't do anything with these bits, so we're going to have to select them all, go to Object and Expand, click OK for that, and with all that still selected, right click it and click Ungroup. So now we can select each individual piece. Now the next thing we need to do is join all these sections up. So if you hit A for your direct selection tool, start by selecting this endpoint here, and before we do anything, we're going to go to View, and we're going to make sure that we've got Smart Guides turned on with that little tick there. Now the reason we need this on is when we click and drag this, you can see that the Smart Guide is telling us when we've got this endpoint in the same orientation as it was originally, helping us keep that same angle. So if we click and drag that, make sure we keep that on the same angle, and then drag it until it intersects with that vertical section there. And we'll go to this vertical section, click that endpoint, drag it up so it meets there, and drag this bit down. Again with this lower section, click and drag that so it's on the same angle and it intersects with that vertical section there. And drag that bit down so it joins up. Drag that up there. Great. Now there's still individual points. So what we want to do is hit A again with the direct selection tool. Click and drag over those 2 points there. And do Control J. And what that does is join those endpoints there. And again, for these endpoints at the bottom here, drag and select and Control J. As you can see, that's now one solid piece. Now I'm going to do the rest of the letters now. It'll take a little bit of time, so I'll fast forward this bit for you now. So, as you can see, we've got the center line created for all of our letters now. So we don't need the rest of the type now, so we'll select all our center points. Hit Ctrl G to group them. And if we go to our layers panel, lock that layer down, select everything else, click delete, unlock that, and we're left with our center lines for our type. Next, what we're going to do is bump up the stroke to 14 point. Gives it a nice chunky look for our neon sign. Let's drag that out there a bit so it's got a bit of a gap. Do the same with that P. Select all that again. Go over to our stroke panel. For the cap type, we're going to click on a round cap so it looks more like a proper neon sign. And to round off the corners, we're going to go to Effect, Stylize, and Round Corners. I found that 12 pixels looks good, so if you type 12 in there, click OK. As you can see, that gives us that nice rounded neon sign looking text there. So next what we're going to do is vertically align our text for the sign. So if we go into the group, drag all the letters down so it kind of slopes down, starting with the O, then the P, then the E, and then the N. So once we've done that, if we click and drag over all that, and then left click again on the O, go over to your Align tab, horizontal align center to align them vertically, and then to space them all out evenly, if we put 70 pixels in this little box here, and then click the vertical distribute space button, which evenly spaces them all out vertically. So once we've got our text, what we're going to do is create the arrow around it. So if you hit M to bring up your rectangle tool, the first one we're going to create is 333 wide by 1128 high. So let's drag that over the top of your text there, create a second rectangle, which will be 460 wide and 320 high. And what you want to do after that is carefully drag that second rectangle over the top of the first one so the bottom left corners align just like that. So once we've done that, we're going to create the arrow point. So if we click and hold on the shape tool, go down to the star, click anywhere on your document, that should bring up this little box here. Change the number of points to 3, click OK. That brings up our triangle here. If we hit V to bring up our selection tool, hover over it until you can see this little rotation tool. So if you click that and hold Shift at the same time, click and drag, and rotate that round to 90 degrees and it snaps easily there for you. So then if we select our triangle and drag it down so it's aligned with the middle of our second rectangle, and we're going to change the size of this in our transform tab. So the width is going to be 150 and the height is going to be 640. And just bring the stroke down to 14. Just drag that out a bit. We just want to make sure that these are all overlapping, because what we're going to do next is select them all, go to our Pathfinder tool. If that's not in your panel there, go to Window, select Pathfinder, and that should bring that up there, just in case you don't have that. So once you've got that open and all your objects are selected there, go to Shape Modes and click Unite, and as you can see, that's joined them all together and created our arrow shape. Next, what we're going to do is round off all the corners on this arrow. So I'm going to start off with the outer corners and this arrowhead. I'm going to do that by hitting A for your direct selection tool. I'm going to select each of those points, and then if you hover over the point, it should bring up this little circular symbol. If you click and drag that, that creates a radius on those points there, and I'm going to go for a 70 radius. The next ones we're going to change are these little internal corners there, so if we select them again, just as we did before, hover over that small circular symbol, click and drag that, and we'll put a roughly 20 radius on there. There we go, that's starting to take shape now. So the next thing we're going to do is add the colour swatches for the colours that we're going to use for this sign. Now the two colours that we're going to use is the pink colour for the text and the blue colour for the outline of the arrow. So if we go over to our swatch panel, create a new swatch, and we're going to put the RGB figures in for these colours. The first one we're going to do is a dark pink, and the figures are 239, 65, 117. Change the name to pink dark. Click OK. Create another new swatch, and this is going to be a light pink for the highlight of our neon light, and the RGB figures for that are 247, 180 and 204. Okay. By all means, when you do this, you can obviously change the colours that you want, but these are the ones that I found look good for the pink and blue, so feel free to copy these if you want. Now we're going to add the blue colours in. So I'm going to change that to blue dark. So for this it's 173, 223, 230. Click OK. And then create our light blue, which is 227, 244 and 248. So next what we want to do is use those colours to create the neon effect for our sign. So first we're going to select our arrow, make sure we've got our stroke selected, and then we're going to go to our gradient tab, select linear gradient, and then make sure we go over to the stroke section here and click apply gradient across the stroke. And that makes sure it follows the actual shape of the object. So then what we're going to do is add a third colour point in here to our colour sliders. I'm going to make sure that's at 50%. For these little gradient sliders here, we're going to change the location of those to 30% for that one and 70% for that one. Now we're going to add the colour, so if we double click on these little colour gradients here, for this one, first we're going to select our dark blue. For the middle one, select our light blue. And for the third one, select our dark blue again. And now for our text, we'll do the same again. Make sure we've got our stroke selected. Hit linear gradient, apply the gradient across the stroke. And this should already be set up from the last one that we've added, so we only need to change the colour. So change that to dark pink, light pink, and dark pink again. There we go, it's starting to take shape now. So the next thing we're going to add on is the glow for the neon light. So first we're going to do it for this arrow again, so we select the arrow, go to Effect, Stylize, and we're going to click on Outer Glow. So for the opacity we're going to put that at 100%, change the blur to 20 pixels, click on this little box here, it brings up our colour picker, so we click Color Swatches, search blue, click the dark blue that we added earlier, and click OK. This might take a couple of seconds to add that, so just be patient with it. There we go, let's put the glow on there. We'll do the same thing for the text, so Effect, Outer Glow, that should already be there for the last time we used it. For this one we're going to change the blur to 15 pixels and click on that colour swatch there again. I'm going to go for the pink colour, so select the dark pink that we created, click OK, and then click OK for that. There we go, as you can see that's starting to take shape now. So next we're going to add our background in, which is going to be a brick wall. So we're going to do that by first creating a rectangle, which will be 150 by 70 pixels. Click OK for that. Now the stroke, just drag your slider here down to a beigey yellowy colour. And just select one that you think looks like the mortar on a brick wall. That looks okay, select that. And for the fill, go to our gradient tab, and we're going to go for a linear gradient and make sure that's at 45 degrees. Now for this colour picker here, we're going to change that to a deep dark, like a burnt red colour. Bring that up there. Make sure it's a nice dark red. Well, that'll do. And for this one, I'm going to change that to a bit of a brighter red. That looks okay. Just drag that off to the side a second. If we hit V for our selection tool, hold down Shift, click and drag that until the middle point of the top edge of the brick intersects with the bottom right corner of the first brick. And once we've done that, if we select both of those, go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and click on Transform. Now the amount that we're going to move these two horizontally is the size of the brick, so that'll be 150 pixels. And if we put 20 copies of that, that should be enough. Click OK. There we go. That gives us loads of bricks on one layer. Now if we've still got those selected, hit Ctrl G to group them, select them, go to Effect again, to Transform, and this time I'm going to delete, I'll put 0 in the horizontal figure, and for the vertical we're going to move that 2 lots of the brick, because obviously there's 2 bricks there. So for that we'll just do 70 times 2, keep the copies at 20, click OK, and there we go, that's our brick wall created. So if we select that, hit Control, Shift and left square bracket, hit that, and then that sends the brick wall to the back of the picture. Now at the minute, obviously it doesn't look like it's night time or that the neon light is having any effect at all on the brick wall. So we want to next create the shadow for the image. To do that, what we need to do is go to our arrow here, hit Control C to copy that, and then Control F to paste that in front. Now for the appearance, if we turn off the outer glow, in fact we'll just delete that completely because I don't need it for this one. If we hit D, that gives us our default colours to start with. So what we want to do is change that fill to black. So if we hit Shift X, that switches those colours. If we turn the stroke to a clear, invisible, so there's nothing there. And what we want to do is get rid of this little section here. So what we want to do is put another point in there. And we're going to hit our minus key to get rid of the delete, to bring up the delete anchor tool, sorry. Delete all those points out there. We'll change that to a corner point so it's nice and flat. Select both of those, and again hover over for that circular symbol. Put a nice smooth radius transition on there. With that selected, we'll go to Object, Path, Offset Path. And to start with, we're going to go for 10 pixels. So we're going to delete this original copy of the arrow, because we don't need that anymore. I'm going to keep this version that we offsetted 10 pixels. So we're going to keep that selected. Go to Object, Path, Offset Path. We're going to offset that again, 70 pixels. Click OK. Now you might find that that's gone sharp again, so just put another little radius on there. Select that one, Object, Path, Offset Path again. This time it's going to be 200 pixels. Again, change that point to a nice little radius there. And then for the last time, going to Object, Path, Offset Path, and do that 300 this time. So what we need to do next is change the opacity for these. So if we go to that very first one, change the opacity to 5%. Next one, 70%. And keep these two at 100% opacity. Now to make this shadow, what we're going to do is use the blend tool, but before we do that, we're going to go to Object, Blend, Blend Options. Now we're going to change these specified steps from 1 to 150. Let's type that in, click OK. And what that's going to do is going to add more steps in there to make the transition look a lot smoother. So if you select all our sections there, if you find it difficult to find the sections, if you hit Control Y, that brings up the wireframe and you'll be able to pick them up a lot easier. So with all those selected, go to Object, Blend, Make. That's another way you can do it rather than pressing Control Alt and B. Go through the object panel there. And there you go, that's added a nice little shadow to our picture there. Now it still looks a little bit light behind the sign, like it's a little bit too bright. So what we're going to do is hit M to bring up your rectangle tool. Draw a rectangle there, make sure it's black. We'll change the opacity to 40%. And if we go to the layers panel, we'll just drag that just so it's sitting in front of the brick wall and just behind the neon light. Now at the minute it looks a little bit messy because it's outside the bounds of the document size. So we'll just hit M to create another rectangle. Make sure we're locking on that top left corner of the artboard. Click and drag the opposite corner. There we go. And then gonna zoom out, click and drag over everything, right click, make clipping mask, and there we go. That's your finished neon sign image. Now it does look a little bit off center, so what you can do is just go to your layers panel here, click the little drop down for this clipping group, and if you select everything in the group, if you just click and drag that about until you think it looks okay, there we go, that looks alright to me, and there we are, finished. So thanks again for watching this video. If you liked the video, just don't forget to comment, like and subscribe. Cheers!